today we are going to look at the overall configuration management 10.20 solution. What are the different components that make it? Then drill down into some of the very specific new features that are added in this version of configuration management system that are automated service modeling and the new UCMDB browser 4.0. We'll jump into the demo and we will actually have a closer look into some of these functionalities after we go through the first few initial set of slides. Starting with the value of HP Universal Discovery. We all know today's reality is pretty much that most of our manual maps and inventory of the applications and assets are pretty much based out of tribal knowledge. We are using different ad hoc tools or processes to build and share these documents or databases among our key stakeholders. Now, this information could be sitting out of a Visio or coming out of an Excel sheet, out of a different databases. So not really a single database where we have all configuration items stored and looking at. In the end, it becomes really impossible to keep these maps up to date with too many changes going on in the IT industries every day, adding new feature, new capability, upgrades, patching, all that stuff, which makes it really, impossible to keep these maps up to date. What HP Universal Discovery does is that it has the capability to discover and update these configuration items that comprise your IT environment on a particular schedule. So you get grain mapping of how your IT elements are related to each other. You're running these discovery and mapping exercises as per your requirements or frequency. In the end, what you get is all of your IT domains share the same view of configuration items and their relationship across the board. So on the left, there are some of the different practices in your IT enterprise that could be sharing this configuration management system. So, for example, they could be operations management teams that could be looking into current CIs. They might want to look at what are the changes on the current CI, recent changes on the CIs have happened over a period of last 24 hours or an hour. Similarly, your data center transformation team could be looking into what is there in the data center A and what has been moved over to the data center B, or something which they could be looking for a certain business application or business services that are running out of different locations. So in a nutshell, what UD is going to provide is a configuration management system that is actually could be used all across the board, and all different individuals out of these practices could be looking and referring the same CIs or configuration items. This picture really provides you the two major components of the configuration management system for HP. On the left, we see HP Universal Discovery. As I mentioned earlier, the main purpose of Universal Discovery is to go out there and gather the data. There are different methodologies that you could actually be using to gather that data, and the data could be your inventory data, it could be a service mapping data, it could be a real-time transactional data. Some of the methodologies are agent-less discovery that uses well-known protocols such as WMI, SSH, or SNMP, and it also comes with its own UD agents or agent-based discovery that could use that could discover the inventory locally and report back to the Universal Discovery. And then we have the real user monitor or passive discovery, which could be looking at an active transactions of a service or an application and reporting those back to the UCMDB. On the right, we have our Universal Configuration Management Database, which is gathering and storing, basically it's not gathering, but storing all the data that has been gathered by Universal Discovery, so that you get one interface where you can actually go in there and browse your configuration items and look at your service maps or business application maps. It comes with the UCMDB browser, which we'll discuss in detail in one of the slides and in the demo. Basically, the purpose is to provide a configuration management for everyone, to provide an intuitive user interface where you could actually just start using it day one without actually learning any application-specific processes. It also comes with a configuration manager or CM, where you can actually write down your policies to run against the configuration items in your IT enterprise. Those policies could be audit policies, inventory policies, and whatnot. Last but not the least, it comes with third-party solution federations. What it means is that there are out-of-the-box integration adapters that you could use to push or pull data to and from the external repositories or databases where you already have the CI or the configuration management database storing some portion of your IT enterprise. Let's drill down one step further into HP's universal discovery. So basically, HP has the breadth and depth for discovering capabilities with over 180 discovery patterns. Each of these discovery patterns could be further customized as per your needs. But basically, at a very high level, what it means is that from the day one, you have out-of-the-box discovery patterns to discover your IT enterprise from layer 2 through layer 7. So it's not only going out there and discovering the host data, it's actually discovering the application level data or the network layer data and the relationship and the dependencies between those particular configuration items. As an example, there is an out-of-the-box discovery which actually goes out there and discovers the middleware applications such as WebSphere, WebLogic, or JBoss, and also discovery jobs that go out there and discover virtualized clusters or Microsoft cluster databases and whatnot. So overall, what it means is that you're actually ensuring your lower total cost of ownership by using this out-of-the-box discovery patterns, and your time to value of the discovery is really low because it takes all your effort into writing your own discovery patterns or processes to go out there and discover the data. In the end, you get a demonstrable return on investment on your overall universal discovery process. Without the discovery, no matter how strong your current processes or tools are, you would never have the real visibility into the information you need to truly understand what your IT environment comprises of. And that's where the breadth and the depth of the universal discovery comes into the play and provides you all that information out of the box. One of the new key features that are added into CMDB 10.20 is the automated service mapping, or basically service discovery. Based on, we all know the process of application mapping. If you have to start bottom up, you're starting from a host level, you go to the application layer, and then you tie them to a business application and business services by maybe interviewing your business application owners or SMEs, and then validating the data with them. So it could be a painful process depending upon, how complicated an application is that you're going to map. But what automated service mapping has to offer is a top-down discovery. What it means is that right now, I can start at a business service level and let the tool discover the lower layers of your topology. So you could be actually entering a URL of your application, which goes out there and discover all the hops of your application or the service topology. For example, it could start with a load balancer at a very high layer and then go into the web layer, app layer, and the backend database layer. In the end, the value it provides is it simplifies and reduces the time to value for mapping your business services. So you could be discovering your environment on a service-oriented approach where you could have service discoveries configured just to discover the business applications or business services assets versus, the approach or the inventory approach where you actually go out there and discover all your hosts first and discover the application layer then on the top of your host layer. Or you could be actually doing the hybrid approach of both where you could actually be running service discovery in parallel to your host discovery to kind of give you both the breadth and the depth of your IT landscape. Again, you are leveraging the industry's most extensive UD content or universal discovery content, which is pretty much kept up to date on HP Live Network and is included as a part of the regular patches to your application. It comes with the templates of the template models, so you're not only discovering your topology, but also modeling them in a way that your end user could actually start consuming them within the minutes of your discovery. And then on the top of that, you're adding the layers to your service maps, exploring the service impacts, and then tracking your services based on change history, tickets being submitted, or the incidents that are happened on the configuration items. We'll look into one of the examples in our demonstration later, but it's pretty cool and pretty intuitive feature that has been added to the UCMDB 10.20 version. Next is the new UCMDB browser 4.0. Again, it's an HTML5 based browser, so it could virtually run on any browser, so no browser limitations. Something what you would actually incur with the regular UCMDB application UI, where you need to download some specific Java JREs and on your browser and make them compatible. So the overall purpose of the browser, in a nutshell, is to provide an easy, straight, intuitive, and simple way to access your CIs and your consumed information of your service maps, which are being built by the administrator. Or you could be actually building some of them yourself by some of the applications that are a part of the UCMDB browser package. Again, it provides you the easiest web user interface to get the right data to the right people, and of course, the overall idea is to be result-oriented, to provide a result-oriented user interface. Integrations and scalability is something where HP has pretty much stayed on the top of its competition. You have out-of-the-box integrations that are available through all the other HP products, as well as third-party products such as Microsoft System Configuration Manager, or you could be looking at a VMC CMDB Atrium. All of that is available. All of these integration adapters are pre-built and available as soon as you install the product. The scalability of the single UCMDB instance is up to 60 million CIs, which means that not only I can consume the data that has been reported and discovered by UD, but also I can consume the information coming in from third-party tools and provide you one single database where you could actually be looking at all different configuration items throughout the IT enterprise, no matter what the vendor is, of course. When it comes to the discovery approach using universal discovery, the motto is, let's keep it simple. Starting with UCMDB version 10, HP introduced a new way of discovery, which is the zone-based discovery. Now, you could actually define your zones, and each zone could actually be running a different discovery activity. What it means is that I could have, different discovery targets that may need different discovery configurations. Rather than just turning on a single configuration for all IT enterprise, what management zone allows you to do is to fine-tune or create these zones and then fine-tune those discovery activities based on the zone requirement. So in this example, there are two zones, X and Y, and then there are 5 data centers, data center A through data center E. And each data center in this picture may have different frequency or different discovery activities that needs to be run. So it provides you to partition, it enables you to partition your enterprise into management zones according to your discovery needs, and then creating the discovery activities to run within the management zone locally. And then you have the capability to configure the behavior of each of these discovery activities based on what you are discovering in those data centers and what are the targets that are going to be in those different data centers. Now, this example shows the logical division based on the data center, but it could be based on the target type. So you may have a discovery management zone just for Windows discovery, and then you could have another management zone just for discovering your certain services or certain maps, application maps. This is another picture where you actually demonstrate how UCMDB could be consumed by different IT processes. Now, we talked about to build this configuration management system, which has which is really the repository for all your CIs and their relationships that exist in your IT enterprise. But the main question comes in how you actually consume that information throughout your IT enterprise across the different IT processes. As an example, in this diagram here on the left, we have the change or release management. So the way the change or release management would use configuration management system is that whenever there is a change request that is added or a new change request is incurred, it could actually update that CI in the configuration item in the CMDB. And then CMDB can consume that information of the change request from your ITSM process, and then further run an impact analysis, provide the impact analysis results back to the change management to look at, okay, this is how exactly this change is going to impact the other configuration items that are related to this particular configuration item that you're going to make a change on. So most of these processes, as you would see, are bidirectional. So CMDB is just not providing the information to these processes, but it's also going to consume some sort of information to understand the processes in a better way and map down that to the associated configuration items, and then go back and push those results back to the IT processes so that they could consume it. This is a typical universal discovery architecture deployment diagram where you would see in the Site 4, you have a configuration management system that is being connected to different active probes and different sites. So if you look at the Site 2, we are doing the agent-based discovery from the client environment, which are reporting back to the probes. On the Site 3, we are actually doing both agentless and agent-based discovery, as well as probes are capturing the data from some of the other applications such as Network Node Manager, Storage Essentials, and System Insight Manager. In Site 1, we are doing both the cloud, private, and the public cloud discoveries, and we are also using the packet probe to provide us the active user transactions on the service map, on the critical business services and applications. All those probes report back to the Site 4, where you have the central configuration management database, and then that database is used further with some of your other IT processes, such as asset management, service management, and business service management. Now let's quickly move into the demo of assisted service modeling and UCMDB Browser 4.0. So what we are looking into here is a service model dashboard. And this is, again, a new capability that was added in the 10.20, where you can actually build these dashboards or service models based on just starting from a URL. So what I'm going to demonstrate in this particular view is that how you could be consuming the information once this model is being built from a top-down discovery job. So if you look over on this particular dashboard, a business application on the left, which is Plants. It is associated with a Java Enterprise application that is running and associated with an Oracle and a WebSphere environment that is running out of a Windows machine, which is located in Portland. So all this model is actually being built by just doing the top-down discovery, which means I just provided the URL and the tool went out there and discovered all the hops and the information that it could have gathered from the infrastructure layer. Now, next, look at what additional stuff we could be doing with this particular dashboard. Not only we are looking at the relationships, but we actually can run through tasks. For example, history changes. I can actually quickly look into what are the changes being made on this particular CI over a period of time. And I can actually click on this change settings button, and I can select my start date and end date between hours between I want to see the changes these particular CIs. So it reports, for example, there are 70 changes being made on the Windows CI, 46 on the WebSphere application server CI, and so on. I can also be looking at, with the integration with the monitoring, such as business service management, I can also be looking at what are the CIs that are actually have monitors that are associated with it. So I would have expected some monitors being at my Windows CI that I'm monitoring a few basic component monitoring on the Windows, or maybe at Oracle and WebSphere if I'm doing an application level monitoring. Similarly, I could be looking at the incidents that have been reported on these particular configuration items. Similarly, requests for changes and the problems associated with those configuration items, if there is any problem reported in the problem management. So again, you're getting an integrated view. Doesn't matter which practice you belong from, but you actually have an integrated view where you can now not only looking at the availability data or the monitoring data, but you're also looking at changes, incident management, problem management perspective. So that completes, provide you a complete picture of your end-to-end integration of your IT processes. Further, within the same dashboard, you could be actually drilling down to a particular CI. For example, if I'm at a WebSphere application server CI, I could be actually drilling down into impact simulation, history, change requests that are being reported on that particular CI, and so on. Let's look at some of the other tasks that we could do on this particular service dashboard. So right now, I'm looking at this model from a particular perspective. I can change my perspective by selecting the layers that I want to look at, and I want to add as a part of this particular dashboard. So, for example, if I want to add the IP layer as part of this dashboard, I just select the IP layer, and it would actually add the IP addresses associated, or IP addresses and the interfaces associated to this particular application. Similarly, I could be doing the same thing if I want to look at the virtualization topology or network topology or storage topology for the same application model. I can always go back, deselect, and you can use some of the tabs here at the bottom to rearrange your maps or zoom in. There are different options that are layout options also that are available. So you could actually explore these different options based on how you want to look, how you want the application map to come up in your dashboard. Similarly, I could actually be running a simulation to look at, what are the dependent services on this particular application or this particular service, how it's actually going to critically impact some of the, or what kind of impact would it have on some of the other business services or infrastructure services that you have in your IT. You could also be running, the impact analysis from the same dashboard. So, for example, in this case, I selected the WebSphere application access server CI, and I click on Run Simulation, and it's actually going to provide me everything that is going to be impacted by that particular CI. I can actually filter the results here, but actually I can use this button to zoom in. And as you would see, it's going to impact our enterprise applications, and some of the web modules, like some of the web modules are going to be impacted by that particular WebSphere application server CI. So you can go back and forth between your views within the dashboard, but there are multiple ways you could actually be looking at the same information, but the overall purpose, again, is to provide an intuitive view to the end user that they could actually start consuming this information in your CMDB from day one. We talked about drilling down from a CI level. So exactly same view that we looked at by running the impact simulation out of the dashboard, I can actually be, for example, drilling down to that particular CI in this CI browser snapshot, and I can actually click on the impact simulation, and it's actually going to provide me pretty much the same view data I saw earlier when I was drilling down from dashboard rather than drilling down from a particular CI. So here we covered, how we would be consuming the information once we have built a service dashboard. Now let's actually look into further that how we could actually build something like that. So what I'm looking at right now is my basic service dashboard, which actually shows all my business services or applications, the stakeholders for those business applications, and the criticality of your business services and business applications. You can arrange them based on, if you would select all the applications that you are responsible for versus looking at all the different business services that have been mapped. They could be deployed at a production level, dev environment level, or maybe in draft as well. So to create a service model, you actually click on Create Service Model, and you select the way you want to discover your applications. Now, there are templates that are available to model your applications out of the box once they are discovered. And this list will keep on increasing, and you could actually either build your own templates as well in the UCMDB applications, just like you would build a regular template for your view. It's pretty much the same thing. Or you could actually, HP Live Network, you may see at HP Live Network new templates that are available for different application types. And HP is actually working with each release of their patches they were actually doing to keep on increasing this template out of the box. So in this case, I'm actually going to start with the URL entry point, where I can actually be just copy pasting my URL to this tab. Next thing I do is that I check the URL availability, so it's available from the UCMDB probe or Universal Discovery probe. And then if I click on the More Properties, that is optional. I can name my application or service. I can select what kind of business CI it is. If it's a business application, it's a business service, or it's an infrastructure service. So I'll select business application for now. And then I'll select the owner. Again, this list will be populated based on the people CIs or the person CIs in your configuration management database. So I'm going to select myself here for both the owner and the stakeholders. And then I select the business criticality. So I can select medium, medium low, or I will just select medium high for this one. And then in the category drop down, you can actually select what kind of categorize this particular service into production, test, or development, or draft, or undefined. And for this purpose, I'll just select production. So if you scroll down here, you would actually see that you can actually just click on this button, which is Start Modeling, and it will actually go out there and start discovering your application URL. It may take a bit, depending upon the application to application, it may take 10 to 20 minutes for it to come back and provide you the entire dashboard that we looked at in our previous example. But what I'm going to demonstrate to you is one of the monitoring service that I turned on this just before this demo, so we could save some time on rather than waiting for the discovery jobs. So in this case, I just started with the entry point URL, which is which is my BSM application, HP BSM monitoring tool. Check the URL availability pretty much the same way I did earlier, and then run the discovery. So as soon as it ran the discovery, it actually came back and tells me it finished the discovery with few errors, right? Right from this UI, I can click on the errors, and I can actually look at what kind of failures did I got on the discovery. So in this case, it says no credentials defined for the trigger IP address. So I click on that IP address, and I can actually just email the administrator to add the credential, or I can pick, if I know the credential for that particular IP address, which is part of my business application or service, I can actually use it. Automatically tells you, smart enough to tell you what kind of protocols would be required or it's missing. So in this case, it tells you PowerShell. So I'm just going to select PowerShell, provide a username and password if I know it, and I can go back and rerun the discovery to ensure it goes back there and applies these credentials. So pretty intuitive. So I don't have to actually go there and go into data flow management and schedule my discoveries and look at the errors. All that could be managed in case of service discovery from the UI itself. Now, while we are doing this, let's look at how the things are working in the backend. So if I open up my UI of UCMDB application, you see the new tab is added in my data flow management, which is called service discovery. Again, this is specifically there for service-oriented discovery. So as soon as I enter the URL and named it HP Monitoring Service as a business service, it's created this discovery activity that actually automatically consisted of these discovery jobs. So as soon as it connected to the host, it came to know this is a Java-based application, so it started initiating Java or JBoss connections, discovery jobs to find the application topology at additional depth. So overall, this is exactly the same result that I see on the discovery, but on the UCMDB browser earlier, where if I look at show errors, it says connection failed or credentials failed. So in the back end, it's doing the same thing that you would actually be doing so far in previous versions of UCMDB, but from an end user perspective, what all you care about is what are the discovery errors and how you can actually resolve them on the fly. So that was the discovery portion of it. The next portion I wanted to highlight is to create your service or model your applications. So some of the models, as I mentioned earlier, that may be available out of the box for certain applications, but then you could be in certain scenarios where you discover an application and the application needs to be then modeled. Now in application UI, you all know we build those CI corrections and then we build the models manually and then relate them to the business CIs and the infrastructure CIs. But from a UCMDB browser perspective, you can actually just click on the Start Assisted Modeling, and you can pick up a template the way you want to model your application. So you could be starting with something like a simple business application, or you can actually be at more advanced level where you can actually start with an advanced level application. So in our case, I'm just going to start with, for this purpose, for simple business application. It's pretty easy to build your models. You click on the Add button. If you have a business CI that is existing, you can actually click on the Add Existing Business Service CI link here, or you can actually create a business service on the fly. So I'm actually going to create a Add Existing CI here. I'm actually going to add the HP Monitoring Service that I just discovered using top-down, and then it automatically gives me option to add the CI at the next level. So in this case, it's business application. So I could be doing the same thing, either creating a new one or adding an existing one. So in this case, I'll just add HP BSM. So once I go to the HP BSM level, it actually then provides me the relationship to the next hop in my model, which is running software. So it already have a connection to the business service CI, so I can add running software further to my application model. So in this case, I'm just gonna look for, let's say, HVBSM as my keyword to look for the running software out of the entire database. So it quickly comes back and tells me these are the two running software that matched my search criteria. So one is my DPS and one is my gateway server. And then I click on Done. I can close this. That completes you can save this model. That completes the application modeling for this particular purpose. Whereas in the previous, usually if you're going through a UI, you may have to build the business application CIs as a model and business services as a model, and then call them in a view to be in an arrangement like this. Whereas on the assisted modeling that comes with the UCMDB browser, you could be pretty much an end user without knowing how to go through all those different application-specific details. You could be actually just dragging and dropping your configuration items to build models like this. A great value, I believe, on the overall configuration management system to increase not only user adoption, but to keep your total cost of ownership and time to value at very low levels. Now, from that part, I'm actually going to move into the reports. right, and kind of demonstrate here that how easy and simple the new reporting module looks like on the UCMDB browser 4.0. So you could actually be a user, depending upon, you can actually tie the reports to the user roles and users, and there could be some pre-built reports that the users could actually be using when they log into the UCMDB browser. For example, Windows Server Inventory is one of the examples here. So it quickly tells me all the Windows machines, their discovered OS, whether they are virtual or physical, and some of the other attributes that are associated with those Windows CIs. And of course, I can change the attributes based on what I want to look, how I want my report to appear in browser. So that's one piece. You're actually also looking at most visited topology reports as well. But we're going to create a new report here and to demonstrate how easy it is to build a report, which you would typically build in a UCMDB using a TQL or topology query language. The use case that we are going to use in this particular report is that we have SQL servers that were running out of Windows 2008, and we want to report on those servers, their memories, and serial numbers, and the discovered OS versions on them. So to start the report, I click on this Add button. I'll just name my report Windows Server with SQL on them. So I'll click on Next. Basically this is my class model or my CI hierarchy. So some of the options you would say main CI type are already dashed on the top. So I click on Node, and then I click on Next. Now, one of the conditions that is in my use case is that I just want nodes that are running OS version 2008 or Windows 2008 R2. So in this case, I'm going to add a condition saying discovered OS name is like, and I'm going to use a wildcard marks 2008. Click on Next. And then I can select a related CI type if my report needs to be dependent on another CI type. In our use case, it is dependent on the database. And in the database, I can further go out and select just a SQL Server because I'm just looking for a SQL Server CIs. Next, I can further add conditions on the SQL Server or CI in this case or any other related CI, but in our use case, that's not required. So I'm just going to click on Save. Okay, so it came back and told me, okay, these are the two servers, Windows that are running Windows 2008 and also hosting a SQL Server. So as you see, it came back and with a lot of attributes that may not have been filled so far based on my discovery jobs, but pretty intuitive to actually add or remove the attributes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away. I'm actually at the node, and I took away all the attributes that it was showing up in the report by default. And let's say I'm going to add just discovered OS name, memory size was one, and if I remember, I think we talked about serial number. So let's add that. And on the SQL Server, I just want to look at the name, which is going to be the default attribute. So I click on OK. So now it shows me both the servers, discovered OS name, memory size associated with those, and the serial number of those two servers. I can save this report. You could actually schedule this report. So you can add the recipients, subject, email contents. You can select the format of your report. You can also select the frequency, how often you want to run those reports and want that report in your email. Or if this was a one-time report, you can actually just export into a format that you want, or you can actually send a email link or send a URL to your end user who may have requested this report. So overall, it's pretty intuitive to build the reports from this user interface versus going into the UCMDB. And again, your administrators could still be building very complicated TQL using using the typical UCMDB UI, but from an end user perspective, who's just going to consume the information from UCMDB, this is a pretty additional added value to the overall configuration management solution. So in the previous versions of UCMDB, you saved your reports, also in the new version as well. You saved them into a directory format. So in this case, for example, this is my root directory, and in the root directory, I've saved some of these reports here. So your end users could still leverage those reports by just picking them up from the directory structure. So in this case, I picked up this Windows inventory report that is actually telling me all the Windows machines that are with their CPU count and memory size and the serial numbers. So all of that would still be valuable. So it's not that you have to build all your reports from scratch.